Fastr.ai is your artificial intelligence recruiting partner. If recruiters want to identify and capture the best talent, they're going to have to move faster.
Fastr.ai is delivered in the form of a browser extension.
With that one simple click of a button, what Fastr.ai is doing is reading through every single candidate profile and matching them individually to your job criteria.
Then we have bucketized them into hot matching candidates, warm, and also cold.
Current matching technologies are based on keywords and skills, but keywords and skills aren't enough. What about cultural fit? What about passion? What about curiosity? We can read and understand resumes and job descriptions better and make better, faster matches.
So with the click of a button, I can take a look at Eric's profile that's displayed right here. And if I don't know what I want to do with him, but I want to compare him to the next candidate, all I have to do is just continue clicking and clicking to the next person so recruiters can be browsing and previewing these resumes on the fly.
Our responsible agentic AI has been trained specifically to be unbiased. Fastr.ai streamlines the recruiting process. Fastr.ai is smart enough to look at qualifications only, skills and experiences only, the attributes that are needed to do the job, and won't be tainted by other things that can trigger bias. We augment your existing system. That means recruiters can use their own applicant tracking system, lighter integrations, fewer integrations, easy implementation, faster implementation, faster adoption, and faster ease of use, faster matching, faster sourcing, faster time to value with Fastr.ai. All right, hello. Let's try that again. Hello. Hello. I realize that I'm the only thing standing between you and lunch. So thanks for watching our commercial. Mahmood, you want to give that to whoever? So I'll do my best to get you out of here on time. But I've been really excited. Have you enjoyed what you heard today? Yes, me too. I've been very excited because we too at Fastr.ai believe that the human element in recruiting is extremely important and cannot go away. Matter of fact, as technology advances, it'll become even more important. So let me finish my commercial because then I want to talk to you about what I've been experiencing this year. I've been working on a research project, and that's been exciting to hear a lot of people talk about all the research that's being done. I spend a lot of time with TA leaders like yourselves and your teams, and I'm really eager to share with you what we've heard and what we've learned. We won't have time today to drill really deep into it, but I hope to leave you with some things to think about that might stimulate conversation for you during the networking time. But as you can see here, you heard the video, but someone, the person who was up here from Novartis said that we've all got to embrace AI and we've got to figure out where to start. And Fastr.ai might be a great place to start. It really resonated with me when she said the comment about how not every tool is a fit for every company. And sometimes by the time you figure out that this tool might not be for your company, you're 9 to 12 months into an implementation, you've signed a 3-year contract, and then you find out. And that's where Fastr.ai has been designed a little bit differently. We've been at this for about 7 years, so before AI was cool. We were reading resumes and comparing them to job descriptions and learning how to think like a human brain, our LLMs learning to think more so we can understand synonyms and context and inferences sometimes when the data, there were some comments a few minutes ago about the data being unstructured. And so we've taught that LLM to read and understand more like a human. So we basically have these functions that I wanted to get to you. We're data mining. We're comparing everyone in the database to every job, looking for those transferable skills, those candidates that may not have applied directly to a particular position to help you get the most out of the data that's inside of your ATS. And what that means is you can potentially save a lot of money on those expensive LinkedIn licenses and also even on staffing fees because you're using every bit of your data. And then starting next month, we're really excited, you can click another button and then you can actually go out and do external sourcing with the click of a button. And Fastr's going to bring that all back, stack rank it, show you why it's ranked a certain way so that your recruiters can move faster. That's what we believe in. We believe in that recruiters need the time to do what only humans can do. And that's about the candidate experience. That's about working with hiring managers and recapturing their time by getting through that ever-growing haystack that we've been hearing about all morning. One of the things I want to leave you with is to make sure we've designed this to be super easy. So with Fastr.ai, there's no training and change management. There's no lengthy implementation. You don't need 9 months. We can be up and running in about 5 or 6 weeks. And you can figure out if it's right for your company. We hope it's right for your company for a long time, but then move on. But there's no loss of productivity from toggling back and forth between applications, or loss of, toggling back and forth between applications can be really a big hit to productivity. So because you're in your own ATS, you don't lose that productivity, and you don't have to experience a lot of the adoption issues that we hear TA leaders telling us about. We spend a lot of money on this tool, and then at the end of the day, everyone just goes straight to LinkedIn and does a manual search. Again, ATS agnostic. That means we have customers on Workday, Smart Recruiters, Greenhouse, Oracle, whatever applicant tracking system you happen to be in, we can place our AI agent into that system, and as you move from ATS to ATS, if you decide to do that, you can take that user experience with you. All right, end of commercial. Let's talk about some other things. But I want to leave you with this thought, and we've heard a lot about this today. I have a slight, maybe disagreement with some of the comments. I think there are companies out there who think they can do this with technology. They think they can replace human beings in the process, and we know some very big companies that we all know the names of. I won't mention them here who are trying that, but we believe that that's the wrong way to go. And Fastr.ai has specifically been designed to enable and empower you and your teams, not to replace them, because we've heard a lot today about emotional intelligence, cultural fit. We will need people doing these jobs, doing recruiting in the future. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Let's talk about what I've heard from TA leaders around the country. It's been really interesting talking with them. One of the things that's been interesting is looking at how they're approaching technology. And so I've talked with about 50 plus so far, so it's not scientific, it's not a big data set, but we're hoping to get over 100 interviews by the end of the year. One of the trends we've noticed is the approach that they're taking to technology. So you probably recognize this. We know that the big consulting firms like to go to the CIO and CFO and say, you'll save a ton of money, do everything in Oracle, do everything in SAP, do everything in Workday. And there's quite a few people taking that approach. What's been interesting is hearing from the TA leaders how they feel about that. Some love it if their companies are big enough to influence the software companies to do what they want to do. But there's quite a few people who feel that the ATS is kind of like the stepchild and doesn't necessarily get the most attention from the whole HCM suite development. The middle, I'd say, is where a lot of folks live, which is where taking a best-in-breed ATS, like a Greenhouse, and attaching that to your HCM. A lot of people in that category. And then this third one, and I want to stop there for a minute. The folks who do that, I think if they can afford it, I think they're pretty happy because they are getting specialized technology. I think sometimes it's the smaller firms that struggle with that approach. This last one is where we found the most happy folks, where I call it the ecosystem. It's where they're taking the best of breed. They've got the best of breed ATS, they've got the best of breed scheduler, they've got the best of breed CRMs, and they're putting those all around. But there's one central theme, which is everyone's looking to change the talent acquisition process. And they're looking hard at their technology and what they're going to do. So I want to leave you with a few themes that they had. The themes that we saw is that everyone's looking at tech, as I just said, and how to use that. The other one is that LinkedIn is still a primary theme in most industries. Not all industries, especially like on the retail side, but in other industries, LinkedIn is still kind of the king of the data repository. And along with that comes a lot of concerns about the expense of LinkedIn, which is one of the reasons that drove us to start our external sourcing tool to help alleviate some of that pain. The next one is headcount reductions. It was interesting that of the folks that we've talked to so far this year, I'd say a good solid third of them were either have already been laid off or had received layoff notices. And these are from large organizations that are pretty well known. We found that interesting. And it was really interesting to hear their take on what it's like to go through the processes that they've helped design. And that most of them agree that, in general, recruiting is broken and needs this technological revamp because it's not a very pleasant thing to go through for the candidates. I found that really interesting. Now, whether those headcount is because of technology, I don't think it is. I think it actually has more to do with the economy. But what it was interesting to hear direct from the horse's mouth what they were experiencing. And then I'll take it a step further. When I talked to the folks on their teams, the recruiters, who are between jobs right now, they had even stronger emotions about what it's like to be a candidate and what that experience is like. So I was really excited early on in some of the sessions when folks were talking about how do we improve the candidate experience in the companies that are investing in that. So going back, this is one of the reasons why we're so passionate. We are so passionate that humans have to be involved in recruiting because at the end of the day, I think it was one of the other panelists who said, it's a people business, and it always will be a people business. And it's so important to our society as a whole, and I know I'm preaching to the choir. This is where people get their health care, how they pay for their housing, how they send their kids to school. This is how people is what makes the country, the economy, and society work. And that's the business that talent acquisition leaders are in, and why they will always be critical to the process. But it's not just about giving people jobs and stimulating the economy, it's also the companies. We're so used to referring to companies as if they're a living thing, but they're not. Think about a company right now that you admire, a big one. You know what it is? It's a group of people that you help to recruit that makes that company great and that made that company great. So I wanted to share a little bit about why I'm so passionate. And I'm watching my timer, so I'll get you out on time. My parents grew up in the South during the Jim Crow era. My dad never even talked to me about college. You know what he told me? I told him, he said, what do you want to do, son? I said, I'm kind of interested in business. And he told me that's not going to happen for you. He says, you should go to the post office, the fire department, or the military. That's where you have opportunity. And I don't think he was trying to harm me, but that was his reality from the time that he grew up. But he made a decision that changed my life. He moved us to the suburbs where the good schools were, and suddenly I was surrounded by people whose parents were engineers and teachers and doctors and lawyers, and I started to open up. And there was one person who really changed my life. Do you know who it is? It's Michael J. Fox. Does anybody know who that is? The Back to the Future guy. Well, you might remember he got his start on a show called Family Ties. Alex P. Keaton, if you remember him. Going to high school with a briefcase and a tie. I wanted to be him. And so I forgot what my dad said about going into the military, and I decided to start pursuing things in business. But we didn't have a lot of resources. I didn't get to go to a four-year university right out of high school. So for me, it was recruiters that made the difference in my life. And I don't know if you saw my background, but I spent about 18 years with Robert Half at their corporate headquarters working on all things recruiting, staff aug and things like that. But it was recruiters who were able to see past my profile and see transferable skills to give me opportunities. So in my career, I started off where it was easy, in food service. But those recruiters helped me move from food service to heavy manufacturing. And then recruiters, once again, helped me move from heavy manufacturing to professional services. And then from professional services, over to Robert Half, I guess you could call that staffing or still professional services. And I was able to work my way up to the director level, where then another recruiter came to me and says, what do you think about being a CEO? And then I went on to become a CEO at one organization, and this is my second CEO gig. So recruiters have made a difference in my life. So all my kids went to college, so I did talk to them about that. And we have a home and a future because of what recruiters did, because they were able to look past the data. And I'm not anti-data, obviously, being in AI. We all want to make data-driven solutions, but there's more. And that's why it's so important to give time back to folks like you and your team, because of the transferable skills that are available. And I loved hearing today about all those future skills that don't necessarily show up in a keyword matching algorithm, right? I think we heard somebody say something about learning agility and EQ and things of that nature. That's the human element that makes it so important. So I'm gonna move on so I don't get too emotional as I think about those recruiters that made my life possible. And it's funny talking to my dad these days, by the way, who never believed I would achieve anything. But anyway, he's a great guy, but limited in his thinking. Anyways, here's some other research that came out of the research project that we're doing. And I brought this up because I just wanted to help us start to think about something interesting. Where are we going? This is the leadership in TA. You're going to decide where this industry goes. And there were some interesting things that came out of the research. And we won't have time to dive in, but I want you to think about it. And you can kind of go online and ChatGPT and see if you agree with the numbers. In 2024, it was interesting. There's about 7 million open jobs. And over 7 million unemployed people. 7 million jobs, 7 million people. That's kind of interesting, don't you think? No? I don't know. Another interesting thing was of all the people that are hired in a given year, about 15 to 18% of those people are turned over. Those are the turnover rates. And I tried to validate that with Copilot, ChatGPT, and Claude, and a number of sources, US government. And it seems about 15 to 18% turnover. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Of all the people that are turned over, according to the research, 75% of all terminations are voluntary. I found that fascinating. Do we agree? I don't know. Do your own research, but it was really interesting. 75% are voluntary. And the other 25% are the involuntary. Here's what was interesting. Half of those were due to reduction in force or layoffs, mass layoffs, that didn't necessarily have anything to do with performance or misconduct. So it's that remaining half of the 25% that are the people who get terminated for performance or misconduct. I thought that was fascinating. So my questions are we focused in the right way, in the right direction? Because it seems like the processes, and we even heard some of our panelists talk about how tough the processes were that they went through, and we all want to make data-driven decisions. And we've all heard the consultants tell us, it's expensive to make a bad hire, it's expensive to replace them. But it's interesting when you look at the data, if you believe that data, that we've got this process set up to find the phonies and bad actors, but the general populace isn't being terminated because of bad hires. So you can come to two different conclusions. Either because most people seem to think like recruiting is broken and we kind of need to fix it. I don't know how that lands in this room, but does anybody think recruiting needs to change? Anyone? I see one hand, one brave hand, right? So either it's working because we're not letting go very many people for misconduct or performance, or why are we spending so much effort treating everyone like they're that small percentage or they have that percent? I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's an interesting question for us to ask because we've all been told it's so expensive, right? And that's why I call it fear-based hiring. It's so expensive to make a bad hire, it hit to productivity, hit to employee morale. And so we're spending all of this effort when it's half of that 25% that may be the folks that we're trying to avoid. And I actually think that AI and things like it have the ability to help us find better, more candidates. I believe in the human spirit. I believe that any one of us here who might suddenly find ourselves in the job market aren't going out there to try to trick an employer into hiring us. but we want to go somewhere where we can be appreciated, where we can make a contribution, where we can make that organization better. And so I just want folks to think about that. All right, so I know I'm standing between you and lunch. Are you ready to have a little fun? Yes. Anyone? Little fun? Okay. It's been a very crazy year, we know. Our country is very divided, but I still think we have more in common than we do differences. So I wanted to kind of play a little game with you. So summer, are you guys ready for summer? Yes. Yes? Okay, so this is chance, that's AI generated, by the way. This is a chance for you to, I'm gonna say something, and then I think you're gonna know how to respond. So I want you to work with me, because this is gonna happen to you this summer. And you all know, you ready? Ready? Marco! Hello. Marco! Hello. Okay, shared experience, right? Let's try another one. Melts in your mouth, not in your hands. Look at that, you guys are good. Give me a break, give me a break, break me off a piece of that. Thank you. This might seem a little silly, but my point is we do have more in common than I think we have differences. And when you think about us as all job seekers and the way we're designing processes and using AI, I think more of us are good-willed than less of us are good-willed. And the job of talent acquisition as a matchmaker is to help put together the right people in the right positions for the benefit of the companies we work for, but as well as society as a whole. Because having access to healthcare and the money to send your kids to college, to retire with dignity, is so important, and talent acquisition plays a key role in making that happen. So thank you so much for enduring me. Please visit us at Fastr.ai. Also downstairs, the little round table with the hot tamales. I don't want to take those on the plane. So please grab some tamales and either eat them yourself or take them home to your families. Thank you very much.